I ended no contact with my toxic mother to protect my dying sister. She tried to get me kicked out of the hospital and vowed to haul me into court. She did. Hey everyone. So, this story, it hits different. My name is Ian, I'm 32. For 2.5 years, I hadn't spoken a single word to my mother. Why? Because she showed up to my wedding of all places and tried to hand my wife, Jess, an envelope with cash. Inside, a note. For when he disappoints you. Jess thought it was just weird. I knew it was pure venom. That was the last time we spoke. My younger sister, Audrey, she was 17 and she lived with our mom. Different dads, but we'd always been close, despite the age gap. We didn't talk every day, but we always caught up. So, when she called me one night last March, her voice ragged from hours of crying, I knew instantly something was terribly wrong. She told me she'd been having awful headaches, nosebleeds that just wouldn't stop, bruises appearing out of nowhere for months. She'd told our mother about it back in January, and Mom just brushed it off. Said Audrey was being dramatic, probably not drinking enough water. By February, Audrey was falling asleep in class. Her gums were bleeding when she brushed her teeth. My mother's brilliant solution? You're anemic. Take these iron supplements. Then, Audrey almost passed out in gym class. The school nurse saw her and immediately called an ambulance. They ran blood tests, then ran them again because the numbers were so catastrophically wrong. Diagnosis: acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Aggressive. Imagine being 17 and hearing that from a doctor you just met 20 minutes ago. That's how she found out. Our mother was already at the hospital by the time Audrey called me. And I'm getting all this secondhand from Audrey, whispering through tears on the phone. Mom showed up, perfectly composed, signed the paperwork, took Audrey home. Audrey said Mom didn't say a single word in the car. Not one. When they got home, Mom finally spoke. We'll deal with this, but you're not going to use it as an excuse to stop pulling your weight around here. That sentence. That was it. It ripped through me. My 17-year-old sister had just been told she might die, and our mother's first concern was the chores. I didn't sleep a wink that night. By morning, I had a plan. I called my mother for the first time in 2.5 years. She answered on the second ring, all smug. Well, I was wondering how long it would take. I told her I wanted to help with Audrey's care. Drive up on weekends, take her to appointments. Whatever. She played the martyr. That's very generous, but I'm her mother. I know what she needs better than someone who walked out on this family. But she agreed to let me visit. I knew she was already framing it. I was the prodigal son. She was the gracious mother. I told Jess I'd be driving 4 hours each way, regularly. She said she understood. The first visit, I pulled up to Mom's house. The front garden, of course, was immaculate. Audrey answered the door. She looked rough. She'd lost so much weight, and these dark circles under her eyes made her look 10 years older. She hugged me so hard I could feel every one of her ribs. We just stood there, holding on to each other. Then I noticed the vacuum cleaner, sitting right there in the upstairs hallway. Cords still stretched out. I looked at her. She just shrugged, defeated. Mom wants the guest room cleaned before Aunt Diane visits. I was halfway through when you knocked. My sister, whose white blood cell count should have had her glued to a bed, was vacuuming a guest room. I walked upstairs, unplugged that damn vacuum, and carried it straight to the closet. My mother appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. She needs normalcy, she said. The doctors even said routine is good for her. No doctor said that. I didn't argue. Not yet. I just told Audrey to sit down and I cleaned the room myself. My mother watched, filing it all away. I could feel it. More evidence of me undermining her authority. This was just the start. That's how someone like my mother operates. When a narcissistic parent has a sick kid, the crisis isn't the problem to them. It's an opportunity. A stage. The binder, the perfect composure, the she needs normalcy line. That's not parenting. It's pure image control. And if you've never dealt with someone like this, everything she does looks totally reasonable from the outside. That's the whole twisted game. Over the next 2 months, I was driving up almost every weekend. Sometimes I'd take a Friday off, stay through Sunday night, getting home after midnight just to go straight to work. My boss was decent, but I could feel his patience wearing thin. Audrey started chemo in April. The first round hit her like a truck. Constant throwing up, more weight loss, sleeping 14 hours a day. By the second round, most of her hair was gone. She started wearing this oversized beanie everywhere, even inside, even when it was 90 degrees out. She tried to joke about it, going for the hipster lumberjack look, then went quiet when someone at the pharmacy stared too long. I was there for her first infusion. I just watched her sit there, eyes closed, gripping the armrest, not saying a word. Our mother, though? She handled the medical side like a project manager. The binder, the notes, the right questions for the doctors. An outsider would think she was Mother of the Year. But that binder had nothing to do with actually caring for Audrey. It was about controlling information. Every single detail ran through Mom first. She'd pull doctors into the hallway so Audrey couldn't hear. I started noticing things that turned my stomach. Audrey, curled up on the couch, clearly nauseous. And Mom would just ask her to fold laundry. Just the towels. It's not hard. And Audrey would drag herself up and do it, because saying no would cost her more energy than just doing the stupid towels. One weekend, I showed up and Audrey had a bruise on her shin the size of my palm. She'd just bumped into the coffee table. Her platelet count was so low, even small contact left marks. She was gray, like actually gray, trying to do homework at the kitchen table. My mother was in the next room, on the phone, laughing, totally unbothered. I pulled Audrey aside and asked her, straight up, how things were when I wasn't there. She dodged it at first, classic Audrey, deflecting with sarcasm. Oh, it's a spa retreat. 5 stars. Would recommend. But then she got quiet. She said, she makes me feel like I'm faking it. Like if I just tried harder, I wouldn't be sick. That sat in my chest for days. The next visit, I walked in and Mom was standing over Audrey, who was at the kitchen sink, washing a full rack of dishes. Audrey was gripping the counter like she was trying not to pass out. I lost it. I didn't scream, but I got loud. I told my mother she was going to kill her own daughter through sheer neglect, and she should be ashamed of herself. I said it right in front of Audrey. Mom didn't flinch. Just looked at me, perfectly calm. And said, see? This is the instability I was worried about. The real damage wasn't what Mom did. It was Audrey. She went straight to her room, slammed the door, didn't come out for 2 hours. When she finally did, she looked at me with this hollow expression and said, "You made it worse. When you leave, I'm still here, and now she's going to be in a mood for a week because you embarrassed her." She was right. I'd made myself feel better and made her life harder. That's a lesson I wish I'd learned cheaper, but that's the one that cost me. After that, I stopped reacting. Because reacting was a luxury Audrey couldn't afford. My anger was just my mother's ammunition. Back home, things with Jess were getting tense. At first, the weekends away were fine. Then they were a lot. Then she started making comments. You know she has a mother, right? We had plans this weekend, and you just canceled again. She wasn't wrong about all of it. I was stretched thin. But she also stopped asking how Audrey was doing after the first month. It was always about me being gone, never about why I was gone. To her credit, she did drive up with me once, early on. She brought soup she'd made for Audrey, sat with her for an hour. In the car home, she was quiet. Then she just broke down, crying. I don't know how you do this every week. My buddy Drew, he was the only one who truly got it. We'd been friends since college. He knew my family history. One weekend, he just showed up. Drove up with me, spent 3 hours sitting with Audrey, watching terrible reality TV while I picked up her prescriptions. Audrey told me later he was surprisingly not annoying for one of your friends, which, from her, was basically a 5-star review. Drew said something that stuck with me. We were driving back that Sunday night. He had this gas station sub he kept picking at, but never finished. Dude, he said, you're documenting none of this. If it ever comes down to your word versus your mom's, you're going to lose. She's got money, she's got the title. You've got nothing on paper. He was dead right. I started keeping a meticulous log. Dates, times, what I saw, what Audrey told me, what my mother said, photos when Audrey let me, every text from Mom. Drew helped me set up a shared drive and organize it all. Meanwhile, Mom had started calling me during the week, trying to control the narrative. Audrey had a good day today. We watched a movie. She's eating more. I think she's turning a corner. I knew the playbook. I'd grown up in it. In May, Audrey's blood work came back worse. The oncologist adjusted her treatment plan, mentioned a possible clinical trial, and told us, point blank, Audrey needed to rest as much as possible. Her immune system was shot. Even minor physical stuff could be dangerous. I was in the room for that conversation. Audrey had texted me the appointment details behind Mom's back. I watched my mother nod along, as if she hadn't had my sick sister scrubbing the kitchen floor 2 days before. In the parking lot afterward, Mom turned to me. You know, she said, you coming here all the time is stressing her out more than anything. Maybe the most loving thing you could do is step back. I just looked at her. I'm not stepping back. Her expression hardened. Careful, she warned. Don't make this into something it doesn't have to be. June. This is when things went from personal to truly clinical. I stopped treating it like a family problem and started treating it like a logistics problem. Build systems. Document everything. When someone drops the ball, the record tells the real story. Audrey got accepted into a clinical trial at a bigger hospital, 2 hours from Mom's house. Promising, but it meant regular trips, more moving parts, more chances for my mother to insert herself. The first day at the new hospital, I met Marisol, the social worker assigned to Audrey's case. Late 40s, calm, direct. She met with Audrey alone, then with me, then with my mother. After that first day, Marisol pulled me aside. Do you have concerns about Audrey's home situation? I gave her the short version. She listened, completely unruffled. Then she asked, does your sister have a patient password set up? I had no idea what that was. Marisol explained it, a privacy measure. Medical info only released to people with the password. Especially useful, she said, when family dynamics are complicated. I talked to Audrey about it. She hesitated. Mom will freak out if she finds out she's locked out. I told her she didn't have to lock Mom out completely, just have the option. She set the password the next day and gave it to me and her treatment coordinator. Marisol also walked me through the legal reality of Audrey being 17 versus 18. Right now, Mom had medical decision-making authority. She could override treatments, access records, even legally remove me. But once Audrey turned 18 in September, only 4 months away, she'd have full control. She could name her own healthcare proxy. She could decide who had access. Marisol gave me one more piece of advice that I think about constantly. The best thing you can do right now is be boring. Don't give anyone a reason to paint you as the problem. Just be present, be consistent, and keep your records clean. So, that's what I did. For weeks. Then Audrey nearly blew the whole thing up herself. She called me midweek. I knew instantly it wasn't a normal call. She'd overheard Jess and me arguing on the phone during my last visit. I'd stepped outside, but not far enough. You need to stop coming, she said. You're going to lose your wife and your job because of me. I told her that wasn't her call to make. Then I'll tell Mom I don't want you here, she shot back. We didn't talk for almost 2 weeks. I drove up the following weekend, and she refused to come downstairs. My mother answered the door with this sickeningly satisfied look. Maybe she's finally realizing who's actually been here for her. I sat in my truck for an hour before driving home. Audrey texted me 4 days later. I'm sorry. I'm scared. We talked for 2 hours. She admitted she'd been hiding symptoms because she didn't want me driving up more often. She'd been downplaying pain to her doctor because Mom was in the room and she didn't want to seem dramatic. That conversation made me realize the countdown to 18 wasn't just about legal paperwork. It was about getting her into a room where she could be honest without it costing her something. At home, Jess had started tracking the money. Gas. Meals on the road. A pair of shoes I bought Audrey because hers were falling apart. We're not her parents, she said one night, waving a highlighted bank statement. And I get it, I told her. But she's my sister. She wasn't wrong that I was stretched thin, but the limits she kept talking about always landed right at the exact edge of her comfort zone. During one late July visit, I showed up unannounced. Found Audrey on her hands and knees in the kitchen, scrubbing baseboards with a sponge. She'd been crying. Mom told her the house inspection was coming and everything needed to be spotless. There was no house inspection. I helped her up, sat her on the couch, and finished the baseboards myself. Took photos. Added it to the log. When Mom got home, she said, "You're not helping her by doing everything for her. She needs to feel capable." No point responding. Nothing I said was going to register with someone who'd already decided she was right. August. Audrey had a bad reaction to a medication adjustment, ended up in the ER overnight. I drove 4 hours in the dark. There was a stretch of highway, no streetlights, just the road right in front of me. Stopped for gas, my debit card declined. Tried the credit card, it went through barely. I did the math. That card was done after this tank. Jess texted the next morning. "Hope she's okay. We need to talk when you get back." At the hospital, Audrey was stable but scared. She was asleep when I got there. I watched her breathe for an hour before she woke up. "You didn't have to come," she murmured. "Yeah, I did." She gave me this look, grateful and annoyed all at once, and said, "You're such a weirdo. I love you though." My mother arrived the next morning. Hair done, outfit perfect, completely calm. She hadn't called me, she'd called the hospital directly and walked right in. She sat down next to Audrey's bed. "This is exactly what I was afraid of. She's been overdoing it because you keep pushing her." I said nothing. I just opened my phone, noted the time, date, and her words. She saw me do it. Her face changed, just for a second. "Are you keeping notes on me?" "I'm keeping notes on everything," I replied. "You're going to regret making me the enemy in this." Then she walked out, found the attending doctor, and actually got to him. I found out that afternoon when one of the nurses asked me, very carefully, how long I'd been involved in Audrey's living situation and whether I had legal guardianship. My mother had told the attending that I was estranged from the family, had no legal authority, and was inserting myself into a minor's medical care against her mother's wishes. The attending flagged it. I had to sit down with the charge nurse, show my ID, give Marisol's contact info, explain the whole damn thing from scratch. It got sorted in a few hours, but for that stretch of time, every nurse on that floor looked at me like I might not be who I said I was. That's how she operates. She went straight to the authority in the room and tried to rewrite the story. If I didn't have Marisol and months of documentation, that one move could have gotten me kicked out of the hospital entirely. Jess picked her moment. It was a Wednesday night. I'd just gotten home from a 3-day stretch at the hospital. Jess was at the kitchen table, surrounded by printed bank statements. She'd highlighted every single transaction related to Audrey. There was a total at the bottom, circled twice in her handwriting. "This," she said, tapping the paper, "is what your sister has cost us in the last 6 months." I looked at the number. "She has cancer," I said. "I know she has cancer, but we're not a charity. We had goals. You made a decision on your own to spend our money on a situation that has no end date." Then she said the thing that ended our marriage. "She's your half-sister, who you barely knew growing up, and you're destroying our life to play savior for someone who's not going to make it anyway." And yeah, that's what she actually thought. The thing she'd probably been sitting on for months, too smart to say it out loud, until she wasn't. That not going to make it anyway wasn't just being realistic, it was her hoping the problem would solve itself, that the inconvenience would just disappear. I picked up those bank statements, folded them neatly, and put them in a drawer. Went to shower. Went to bed. The next morning, I called a divorce attorney. I didn't file right away, I'm not impulsive. I spent 2 weeks sorting my finances, separating what I could, talking with the attorney. Drew helped me move important documents to his place. I didn't tell Jess any of this. I'd learned from watching my mother, if you tell people what you're about to do, you lose the upper hand. When I finally told Jess I was filing, she seemed genuinely surprised. That told me everything. But she didn't fold. She spent 3 days going back and forth between guilt trips and threats. Told me my savior complex was a sickness. On the second night, she said, "When Audrey doesn't make it, and we both know that's where this is heading, you're going to come crawling back. And I won't be here." On the third day, she called my mother. I don't know what was said, but Jess came home that evening weirdly calm. Said she'd spoken to someone who actually understands the situation. I changed the locks on our shared drive that night. Because at that point, it wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a second front, with two people who wanted to control me now talking to each other. The divorce itself was pretty straightforward. No kids. The house was underwater, and the joint account was half gone. She got the house. I got my truck and a fresh start I couldn't really afford. September 3rd, Audrey's 18th birthday. She spent it in a hospital bed. She'd been admitted 2 days earlier after her white blood cell count dropped to near zero during a particularly aggressive round of the trial treatment. Neutropenic. Her immune system was non-existent. A common cold could kill her. She was in an isolation room, restricted visitors, wearing a mask, making dark jokes about how this was literally the worst party ever. I brought her a cupcake from a bakery near the hospital. Just one, chocolate with vanilla frosting. Put a single candle in it. She couldn't eat it because of the nausea, but she blew out the candle and said, "I wished for better health insurance." Then she said something I wasn't expecting. "So, I'm 18 now." She was picking at the blanket, not looking at me. "That means she can't make my medical decisions anymore, right?" I told her that was correct. Marisol told me about the healthcare proxy thing weeks ago. "Actually, I've been thinking about it." She paused. "I want you to be my proxy. And I want Mom's access restricted. Not all the way, just enough that she can't mess with my treatment." I hadn't brought it up. I'd been planning to carefully after the birthday. But she'd already done the math on her own. She'd been sitting with it, timing it, waiting until it was legally hers to decide. This girl, who just turned 18 in a hospital bed fighting cancer, had already figured out her options and waited for the exact day she could pull the trigger. Nobody coached her. She knew. Looking back, that's when everything shifted. Marisol helped coordinate the paperwork that afternoon. Healthcare proxy naming me. HIPAA authorization restricting access for our mother. Visitor protocol with the nursing staff. All of it signed, witnessed, locked in before dinner. I didn't tell my mother. It took exactly 5 days for the bomb to go off. My mother showed up at the hospital on September 8th. At the desk, she was told she wasn't authorized to access Audrey's treatment information. She demanded a supervisor, then the doctor. Both confirmed the restriction. She called me 20 minutes later. Her voice was flat. "What did you do?" She wasn't asking. I told her Audrey was a legal adult and had the right to manage her own medical decisions. "You've poisoned her against me," she hissed. "I will have an attorney contact the hospital by end of day." She did. The attorney told her what any attorney would. An 18-year-old has the legal right to pick their own healthcare proxy. There was nothing to fight. But my mother doesn't process no as information. She processes it as a challenge. The following week, Audrey had a bad night. A really bad night. Fever spiked to 104, oxygen levels dropped. Alarms went off. Nurses moved fast. For antibiotics, cooling, oxygen. I was called and got there within an hour because I'd started staying at a motel nearby during treatment weeks. That night, I almost called Jess. I just missed having someone who used to ask how I was doing. 40 minutes later, the hospital called. Audrey was stabilized but groggy and scared. She was gripping the bed rail, kept asking if she was going to die. I held her hand, told her she wasn't, but I wasn't sure I was telling the truth. The attending pulled me into the hallway. Audrey's immune system had nothing left. Antibiotics were working, but slowly. If the fever didn't break by morning, they were looking at an ICU transfer. I stood in that hallway for a long time, counting floor tiles because my brain needed something to lock onto. I called Drew. Third try. I couldn't talk at first. He just waited. "She might not make it through tonight," I finally managed. "What do you need?" he asked. "I don't know." "Then I'm driving up." He did. Got there around 4 in the morning. Didn't come inside. Just sat in his car in the parking lot. I didn't find that out until after the fever broke at 5:30 a.m. He'd been sitting out there for almost 2 hours, didn't want to bother me. When the nurse told me she'd stabilized, I walked into the bathroom and threw up. I wasn't sick, just, my body finally let go of everything it had been holding for the last 6 hours. My mother showed up that morning. Walked into the room, straight to Audrey's bed. Baby, I'm here. She tried to take Audrey's hand. Audrey pulled away. Mom, please. I'm fine. Just let me sleep. My mother turned to me. This is your fault. She's sicker because of the stress you've caused. You need to lower your voice, I said. She didn't. She told the nurse I had manipulated a minor, incorrect, Audrey was 18, into signing documents she didn't understand. Said the clinical trial was experimental garbage. Demanded I be removed from the room. Audrey, from the bed, whispered, Mom, stop. She kept going. I stayed seated. Didn't engage. The charge nurse asked her to step into the hallway. She refused. I'm her mother. You can't remove me. Ma'am, I can and I will if you continue to disrupt patient care. My mother looked at both of us. You'll both regret this. She didn't leave. Security escorted her out at 10:50 a.m. The incident was documented by security, the charge nurse, and Marisol. Audrey was quiet after Mom left. She stared for a long time. Then she said, I'm sorry you have to deal with her because of me. I told her she had nothing to apologize for. She asked if Mom could really challenge the proxy. I told her no. She asked if I was sure. I told her I was. She turned on her side, facing away from me. I just wanted her to be normal. Just once. I sat in that chair until she fell asleep. After the hospital incident, my mother went on the offensive. She got an attorney and sent a formal letter to the hospital claiming I'd coerced a vulnerable, critically ill patient into signing documents. The hospital basically told her to kick rocks. The patient is a legal adult. Then she called my employer and told my supervisor she was concerned about her son's mental health and that I was neglecting professional responsibilities to pursue a vendetta. My boss hung up on her, but he pulled me aside after. Meanwhile, Audrey's treatment was actually working. October, November. Still sick, still in and out of the hospital, but her counts were finally trending the right direction. There was a scare in mid-October. One of her numbers dropped, and they had to do a bone marrow biopsy to rule out relapse. I didn't sleep for 4 days. Audrey handled it better than I did. She texted me a photo of herself in the hospital gown, thumbs up, caption, round 48. Let's go. Biopsy came back clean. The oncologist told me to get used to the dips. Yeah, easier said than done. By November, her appetite came back a little. She started watching videos on her phone instead of just sleeping. She asked me to bring her a specific brand of chips that the hospital vending machine didn't carry. I drove 40 minutes round trip to get them. When I handed her the bag, she grinned. Finally, someone useful in my life. I laughed so hard. My mother, though, wasn't done. In November, she filed a motion seeking emergency guardianship over Audrey, claiming Audrey was medically incapacitated and I was exerting undue influence for personal and financial gain. The financial gain part was almost impressive. I was bleeding money to keep my sister alive, not making a dime. The motion required a hearing. My attorney submitted everything Drew and I had been putting together. Here's where I almost screwed up. There was a 6-week stretch, late July through early September, where my log had major gaps. Everything was hitting at once. Audrey's blow-up, Jess at her worst, barely holding it together at work. I'd stopped writing stuff down because I was just running on fumes. I had texted some photos, but the detailed daily log had holes. My mother's attorney found those gaps. Argued the documentation was selectively compiled, that the missing weeks meant I was cherry-picking the bad stuff. It wasn't true. My own attorney told me the gaps were a problem. The judge didn't deny the motion outright. She ordered an independent evaluation, a court-appointed psychiatrist to figure out if Audrey could make her own medical decisions. 3 more weeks of limbo. Audrey was furious. I have cancer, not brain damage. I shouldn't have to prove I'm smart enough to choose my own doctor. The evaluator met with Audrey twice, reviewed her records, spoke with her treatment team. She was sharp, obviously had all her mental faculties. Anyone who spent 10 minutes with her could see that. She also told the evaluator, I found this out later, my mother ignored my symptoms for 3 months. My brother drove 4 hours every weekend. You tell me who should be making decisions about my health. The evaluation came back clean. The motion was denied. The judge didn't give some big speech or anything. It was a 2-page ruling that showed up in the mail, with a note that the filing was inconsistent with the documented record. My attorney said that basically meant any future filing from my mother would get extra scrutiny. Honestly, it didn't even feel like winning. It felt like paperwork. But it could have gone differently so fast. My mother's attorney advised her not to appeal. She fired him, got a new one. The new attorney, after looking at the case file, told her the same thing. She didn't file again. Turns out, the paper trail works both ways. She just didn't plan on being the one it caught. December. Audrey's latest blood work showed major improvement. Her white cell counts had stabilized in a range the oncologist called functional, and her bone marrow biopsy came back with way fewer blast cells than before. She was still on maintenance treatment, and would be for a while, but the word remission had entered the conversation. She was discharged from inpatient care 2 days before Christmas. I picked her up in my truck. She sat in the passenger seat wearing that same beanie and a jacket 3 sizes too big because she still hadn't put weight back on. Audrey wasn't going back to our mother's house. As a legal adult, she chose where she lived. She chose me. I'd rented a 2-bedroom apartment closer to the hospital, clean and quiet, with a window in her room that got good morning light. Mom had gone quiet after the ruling. Not gone, I mean. She'd never be truly gone. But I think losing in court twice made it too expensive and too embarrassing to keep going. She still sent texts once in a while. Always worded real carefully. Always making it sound like concern. Just checking on my daughter. I hope she's getting proper nutrition. I showed them to Audrey. Usually, she just didn't respond. Money-wise, I was in rough shape. The divorce. The months of driving. The apartment deposit. Audrey's uncovered bills. It had drained almost everything. I'd held on to my main job, but burned through every last bit of goodwill and PTO doing it. On top of that, I'd picked up freelance logistics consulting through a contact Drew hooked me up with, and it was slowly closing the gap. I'm not gonna pretend I handled the money gracefully. I missed rent in November and had to ask Drew for a loan. He Venmo'd me without a single question. Paid him back in January. I also had a credit card go to collections because I straight up forgot about it during that hellish hospital week. Still on my credit report. But I was keeping my head above water. Barely. Audrey started outpatient treatment in January. Every 2 weeks, we'd make the drive. She'd sit through her infusion, and I'd sit in the waiting room, answering work emails. She started a GED program online, since she'd missed too much school to graduate on time. She was mad about that for a week, then just shrugged it off. Whatever. I'll just finish it faster than everyone else. There was a night in late January that I think about a lot. We were sitting on the couch. She was doing practice tests on her laptop, and I was eating leftover pasta. Some show was on in the background, neither of us really watching it. She looked over at me and said, "You're my favorite person. Thank you for never giving up on me." That made me smile. Even though I lost so much, it was worth it. She made it, and I'll always be proud of her. And that's where the story ends for now. No revenge fantasy here. Just a guy eating pasta next to his sister who is alive because he refused to look the other way. If you're ever in a situation where everyone around you is telling you it's not your problem, but something deep in your gut screams that it is, trust that gut feeling. Not every fight is yours, but the ones that are, you'll know. So, tell me honestly, down in the comments, if you were in my shoes, would you sacrifice absolutely everything, your marriage, your financial stability, your peace, to save someone you truly care about? I really want to know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.